Very good afternoon, and thanks for clicking on to the Thursday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. We are fair rattling through this week, and the weather is certainly rattling through as well. We've got a very strong upper level jet stream at the moment here, sending a series of frontal systems moving from kind of generally west southwest to east northeast. And we have got a named system on the way for tonight, believe it or not, tonight into tomorrow morning. It is named Lillian, and we are only 10 days, less than 10 days away from the end of the storm naming season. It runs from September to September, and we have got a named storm on our hands as we progress through the final 10 days of not just August, but meteorological summer. The remnants of Ernesto rattled through over the course of today. Very gusty winds in association with that, but it's generally that area of low pressure at around 969 millibars just to the north of the British Isles here. It's the pressure gradient between it and the high over Iberia that's generating this very strong wind flow. It's not actually the remnants of Ernesto. Essentially, Ernesto's remnants just became embedded within the main flow. We've got a very strong jet stream aloft here, so we've got a lot of rising air. We've had the bands of heavy persistent rain rattling through a series of bands and then followed by showers. And you can see here on this satellite loop, there's the feature that is going to become Lillian, rattling through very, very quickly indeed. And it is going to cause a few headaches during the course of tonight. So let's have a look and see at the Northwest Europe view here. Essentially, this is the embedded remnants of Ernesto. There's that 969, 968 millibar low to the south of Iceland here. There's the feature here. Rather innocuous, rather small, but there's a jet that is on top of that. And this feature is essentially crossing from the warm side to the cold side of the jet. And as it moves across Ireland and the central swathe of the UK during the course of tonight and into tomorrow, it's going to cross over the jet and it's going to allow the system to deepen. And it's this kind of deepening process as it crosses the UK that the Met Office are concerned about this. We could see locally somewhere record an 80 mile per hour wind gust during the course of tonight and into the early portions of tomorrow morning. Heavy persistent rain has been a theme throughout the course of the majority of this week here, and on top of that we're going to see a further 25, 50, 75 millimeters of rain falling in already saturated ground. So disruption is likely due to the rainfall, but also due to the gusty winds, 50, 60 miles per hour, quite widely. North Wales, Northern England, Southern Scotland, parts of Ireland and Northern Ireland is going to see some very gusty conditions as well. But it's as we progress through the course of this loop of the ECMWF, that front that's moved through during the course of last night into today, that is now moving into Scandinavia as we progress through this afternoon. And then it's as we move into this evening, that system is beginning to deepen here. You notice here the contours start to close, so it's going to become a closed circulation here. At the moment, it's kind of just a disturbance, a wave running along the flow. But then you start to see the isobars closed and become a closed contour, meaning the system becomes a deepened area of low pressure. Notice here, as we progress through the course of tonight into tomorrow morning, the pressure is dropping. Not rapidly, but nonetheless it's dropping anyway. We're going to see the isobars pinch together. We're going to see on the southern flank of that low some very, very gusty winds indeed. So let's have a look and see the UK view here of the model, and you can see in a little bit better detail. So let's skip back to here. There's the frontal system. Embedded within that is Ernesto. Plenty of heavy rainfall in western areas, and then as we go through the course of this evening, you see here the system approach the west coast of Ireland here. Very heavy rainfall and gusty winds, especially in the southern flank. You notice here we don't have the same amount of isobars in the north side of the system here, so not as windy on the north side, but certainly on the southern flank of that system, powered and aided by the jet stream above. And then as the system crosses Ireland, we're going to see some very heavy persistent rain moving through Wales in particular, and then into the north of England here. All the while, as the system skips from Ireland across the Irish Sea into the north of England, we've got a pressure down to 983 millibars, but it's on that southwestern flank we're concerned about some very gusty winds indeed. 75 mile per hour winds is likely. If we happen to have a look at the wind gust for the same time frame, we've got 111 kilometer per hour gusts here. Skip back a frame here, so it's going from 98 to 111 and then 109 kilometers per hour. So you can see here, it's really that northwest corner of England, North Wales, West Wales, over the high ground in particular. We're going to see these winds really accelerate here, and I would not be surprised if we see an 80 mile per hour gust on that southwestern corner of the centre. Less in the way of windy, if you notice here across Scotland, but it's a windy all night across particularly southeastern Ireland, and the majority of England and Wales is going to see some pretty windy conditions through the course of tonight. And then that system clears out into the North Sea, and out it goes, and we're left in a westerly wind flow. So we'll go back to the overview chart here. Let's in fact look at the precipitation. So accumulated precipitation. Remember that we have already seen a significant amount of rainfall. Let's play over to the Meteosales site here, and just to the south of the centre. So this is skipping back to yesterday, sorry. And we've got the 970, 971 millibar area of low pressure just to the south of Iceland. During the course of today, that has moved eastwards. Gusty conditions on the southern flank of it. So it's been very, very windy up here across the north, but I think that the majority of Scotland and the northern half of Ireland, northern England as well, has seen some very gusty winds. And embedded within that, notice here this little kink, that is the remnants of Ernesto. This rather innocuous feature at 10 millibars is Lillian. Now, if we play through the animation, you can see what happens. The deep centre of low pressure moves to the east. There's that feature there that is slowly starting to organise itself. Pressure is dropping into the 990s and millibars here, and that system will move its way eastwards during the course of tonight. Now, looking at the precipitation totals here, this is quite interesting to see. If I can get to the right chart, it would help, and see what the rainfall totals have been. This is the last 72 hours in terms of rainfall amounts here. So you can see here, close to 50 millimetres of rain up at All Bay. We've got 54.6 at Glasgow Bishopton. We've got 60 millimetres of rain at Shap Summit. So you can see here 74.6 at Estelmuir. So we've got areas between 50 and 70 millimetres of rain over the last 72 hours according to the Meteosales website here. And over the next few days, we're going to see an additional 50 plus millimetres of rain falling up across parts of Cumbria, for example, here. So this is all the way out to the end of Friday. Let's have a look and see England and Wales in particular. Actually, this would be quite interesting to see the total amounts here. So this is by the end of Saturday, and we've got upwards of 102 millimetres of rain. Now, parts of northwestern Ireland, the west coast, 30 to 50 millimetres of rain falling, as you can see here. But the northwest Wales, we've got 60 plus millimetres of rain, and up across the Cumbrian Fells, southwestern Scotland, anywhere between 40 and as much as 80 plus millimetres of rain falling on top of what we've already seen. And that is the concern going forward here, that we are starting to see these rain totals mount up quite significantly. So there is Lillian starting to develop here quite quickly. We've got these gravity waves crossing over the hills as these gusty winds cross over the topography. It's creating this little ripple effect in the clouds here. Quite nice to see always on visible satellite imagery. Let me see here. Current temperatures at the time of recording, which is just after 5 p.m. We've got the upper teens in some places. A little bit of Fern effect here. We've got 18 Celsius at Aberdeen Dice and also at Inverbervie. thanks to those gusty winds crossing over the Grampians here. Not too bad, albeit it is windy across the south, but we've got temperatures into the low 20s, as you can see here. But generally fresh conditions across Ireland, Northern Ireland, North England, and into Scotland due to the blustery conditions that we're seeing at the moment here. Looking at the latest radar here of Weather Online, and you can see the heavy rain associated with the deepening Lillian now starting to push into Ireland. Now, I think this season, by the way, I read this off the Met Office site, that this has been the most named storms in a 12-month period since the start of naming the systems, the Met Office, back in 2015. So that's quite interesting to know that we've had the most named systems in a storm season for the UK since 2015. I thought that was quite worth pointing out. Now, let's end the video by looking at a little long range here. This is the GFS extended, by the way, for the next 30 days. So this takes us out between the 21st of August and the 20th of September, and the general emphasis being on a trough to the north of the UK over Iceland, ridging over Iberia, and a bit of a battle in between. It looks as if you could argue that the UK and Ireland actually has a bit of a kind of west to southwesterly flow, so that would suggest to me a little bit on the potentially slightly warmer than average side based on this GFS run. Obviously, the GFS extended for the next 30 days. There's a look at Europe specifically, and you can see here a little bit of component. Very similar idea actually to August so far. Deep low over Iceland, strong ridge to the south of the UK, battle in between, always cooler and more unsettled and wetter across the north, drier and more settled across the south here. Looking at precipitation of this model, and you can see here for the next 30 days, it's looking wetter in the north, drier in the south. Is that precipitation? No, it isn't. That's surface pressure. Let's get to the precipitation and show you what's showing. So wetter than average across the northwest, drier than average east of Scotland, and the majority of England, Wales, and the same with Ireland. Cool, wetter north, drier across the south. And let's have a look at the temperatures for this chart and see what it is suggesting for the next 30 days. Cooler north, slightly warmer south. No real surprise here. CFS V2 looking like this here for the period between Thursday 22nd and Saturday the 21st of September. Very similar idea here. Trough, quite deep trough to the north, ridging Iberia, extending up into the southern UK. Looking specifically at Europe for that same time frame. Is that the right chart? I don't know if it is. That doesn't look right if you ask me, because it's not got the trough to the north here, I'm afraid. So is that updated? I don't know if it has. We'll skip forward. But anyway, the GFS extended and the CFS V2 very much in bed with each other in terms of showing a nice ridge. In fact, it's actually updated here. That's quite interesting to see. So that is a big change from yesterday's run. So I pulled up this map yesterday, and this is the new one. And it's showing more in the way of ridging, higher pressure, and in terms of temperature for the next 30 days, looks like this here. So let's look at Europe specifically. Actually slightly cooler than average, which is quite interesting given the higher heights. Let's have a look at precipitation for the same period here. Is it going to give me that? Doesn't look as if it's going to go anything out beyond 10 days, I'm afraid. Moving on to the next model here, this is the ECMWF extended. Looking at Europe specifically, you can see here a weak negative, not so much a deep trough, but a weak negative, and more ridging extending across the majority of the UK and Ireland. Precipitation-wise, for the 30-day period, wet in the north, dry in the south, and in terms of temperature anomaly, looking like this here, cool in the north, warmer in the south. Very, very similar idea, if you notice here, to the month of August that is just gone. And we are starting to drop that anomaly, by the way, which is quite interesting too. That has to get taken into consideration. This is the month of August of the CFS. This is the month of September. So it has more kind of in a blocky sense, blocking the North Atlantic, extending up into Greenland. So that's a bit of a negative NAO signal, if you notice, for September, with a trough locked in over the UK and Ireland. Let's look specifically at Europe. And again, that doesn't look as if it's the same chart. You can see here more in the way of blocking to the over Scandinavia and to the north here, precipitation wise. This is just to try and throw me, isn't it? You can see here it looks largely drier than average, with a little area of wetter than average just to the east of Bristol here, between Bristol and Reading, if you notice. Precipitation wise, this is obviously just for a bit of fun at the moment anyway, because we will have the September outlook coming up. Looks as if it's going to be average, slightly warmer in some places, slightly cooler in other places. Let me have a look and see what the ECM seasonal is looking like here for Europe. And you can see here that we've got the region to the south and to the east. Looks as if we've got a little bit of a neutral height field, but you would suggest with this orientation possibly a little bit more in the way of troughiness over the north of the UK, extending into Scandinavia precipitation wise for this same time frame. So September, got wetter in the north, average across the rest of the British Isles here. Temperature wise, let's have a see and look and see what happens with this. Close to average, which is interesting. NMME model for September looks like this here in terms of the temperature. So neutral, average conditions. Precipitation, you can see here that it is suggesting slightly drier on the Western Isles here, slightly wetter down across East Anglia and the southeast. And it doesn't give you upper heights for this model here. Let's have a quick look at the CANSIPS model, just out of interest here, to see what it's showing for the month of September. And you can see here drier across the north and near average across the rest of the UK here. Let's see what the upper heights are looking like for the month. So it's actually suggesting again a little bit of a kind of possible negative up towards the north, ridging across the south here. So the general consensus would be trough to the north, ridge to the south, wetter, cooler across the north, warmer, drier across the south for the month of September. But we'll look at this in a little bit more detail coming up. So stay tuned. Wet and windy night coming up. Stay safe wherever you are. Like, share, and subscribe. See you again, all being well, tomorrow with more. Bye for now.